Hello everyone, it's week 2 of the Mixed Media Techniques prompt in the Facebook group, the Mixed Media Emporium. And before I forget, for anybody who enjoys this and wants to follow along and share, I'll leave the link to the Facebook group for you in the description box below. Now, this week we're going to be focusing on household things that cause a reaction with your mixed media products. Things like rice and salt, bleach, isopropyl alcohol, just really fun and easy techniques. Now, I've got here in front of me some scraps of watercolor paper. You can also use mixed media paper for this as well. Regular printer paper I think would be a bit too thin, but you can certainly use it, especially with a coat of gesso, so don't feel that you have to rush out and buy new things. I've also got a watercolor palette here. These are all metallic colors, a set that I've hardly ever used. Now I'm going to start off by adding some plain water. I've got a jar of water here, I don't know whether you can see it, to my piece of mixed media, in fact this is watercolor paper. As I've said, you can use mixed media paper as well. So there we go, not too much, you do not want this pooling all over the place. I've also got a small brush here, and I'm going to start off. I've already applied some water to these. Might need a little bit more. Here we go, let's maybe water this down a bit, and what I'm going to do is just apply some black to the top like this. You can use any colours you like, just be mindful you do not want to create any mud. I'm going to try some purple next. I love these colours here. These are all metallic and glittery colours, by the way. A bit more water. I want this to be quite wet. And we'll apply some of this, a bit more water perhaps. There we go. Try and blend that together. And then some blue. Which blue shall I use? Let's use this tealy coloured blue. You see, that just looks so pretty, doesn't it? I love how that looks. And this is just beautiful when it's dry. And before it dries too quickly, I have got a small paintbrush here, a cap of isopropyl alcohol. And all I'm going to do is put some alcohol on my brush and tap it onto my colours. And it just reacts and creates the most beautiful, beautiful patterning for your backgrounds. I just think that's so pretty. Now I'm going to give this a dry. Can you see all that lovely texture forming? And as soon as your paint's dry, then that's it. You're not going to get any further reaction. These paints are just so beautiful. If I tilt them, can you see all that wonderful, wonderful shimmer? So let's use the same colours again. So some of that gorgeous black or grey. Just build up the colour a bit, and you really do need to move quickly here because once it's dry, as I've said, you're not going to get any more from it. And you can see now that you're starting to see more of that gorgeous texture that we created as well. Now, of course, if you were using regular copier paper, your paper would start to pill. So I just don't think it would work at all. It might work with a layer of gesso. And then we'll just tap that alcohol on. And you can see that it reacts more to the darker colours than it does to the lighter one at the bottom. But I just think that's really pretty. It's subtle. It's just gorgeous. The more you add, the more texture you get. But as I do say, you can only get this when the ink is wet. This is pretty much dry, and just look at the gorgeous effects that I've got. It's just added some beautiful, beautiful mottling and just makes the background look so much more interesting. So let's try something else. So let's see what happens with salt. So that's the isopropyl alcohol. I've already wet my paper. I'm going to use the same colours just so that we can see what the difference is. And again, I need to work quickly on this to make sure that my paint is still wet, because I'll only get a reaction whilst the paper and the paint is still wet. Once it's dry, that's it, you've had it. And then the blue. And this time I'm going to add some salt. I'm just using regular table salt. You can use rock salt, but I just find when I've tried this in the past that rock salt just gives me too much pattern. You don't want too much here. And then I'm just going to have to set this aside then to dry. But let's just let it do its thing. And what will happen is that the salt will soak up all of the colour and leave some pretty patterning behind. So I'm just going to set this off to dry. Now I've been experimenting and I'm just going to share what I've been up to. I've got an art card here. It's a Tate one. I've got a whole wad of these that I picked up from the charity shop for £2.50, and I bought them more because of the thick, sturdy card that they're made out of. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of the golden fluid acrylics I'm using for this, and I'm just going to apply a layer over the top of this, and this is just going to be a base layer. I've got some dirty water here from the previous experiments that I was doing, and that's okay. So just going over this with some of that orange fluid acrylic. You can use watered down normal acrylics. You don't have to use the same materials as me. I've tried this in the past, and you know, you can use regular acrylic paints for this. I'm going to show you another idea in a second. And then I've got some isopropyl alcohol, and I'm just going to splatter some on top. Now, in my previous experiment, I did find that I didn't get too much reaction from the first layer, but we'll put it down nevertheless. And then I'm just going to dry that with my heat tool. Can you see, if I hold it to the light, you can see that it's made some patterning. It's just not all that visible yet. The important thing here is to dry in between layers. Next, I'm going to add some of the cobalt turquoise. Again, we'll have a couple of squirts of water. I've just rinsed out my water dish as well because it was really bad, and I'm going to apply another layer of the turquoise on top here, like this, and it will look a horrible mess to start off with, but believe me, I think we will end up with something really fascinating at the end of it. I'm going to come in with some of the rubbing alcohol again. Just look at that, and you see the paint just the alcohol just pushes the layer of paint underneath away, and you just get these really fascinating results. And again, I'm just going to dry that with my heat tool before coming in with a layer of different colour again on top. So that's what I've got so far. Oh, let me unpeel it from the background paper. I'm going to turn it round because I can see that I've got more detail on the bottom, probably because of you know, the way that I'm angled. And this time I'm going to add some primary magenta. So we'll put some down. And this is just my glass mat, by the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This was the one that I was using for the dendritic technique last week. Dry off my paintbrush. So nice and fluid. And let's just go over this. And again, I find that it works better as well if you only go over it with the paint once. I have no idea why. There must be some scientific reason. But again, just go over this with the alcohol. Oh, I love that. That is just so pretty. Just look. This layer is now dry as well, and I know it looks dark, don't worry about that. I'm going to tilt it again in this orientation, and this time I'm going to add some of the green gold. So let's give that a shake. Again, we need to water it down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that will do. I've got my dirty paintbrush here, that's okay. Now I think I need a bit more paint. I think that's a bit too, whoops, probably a bit too much paint there, a bit too watery. There we go. And again, I'm just going to go over this. And as I've said, I just think it works better if you just add one layer rather than going over it repeatedly, because it starts to disperse the alcohol and the layers that you've got underneath. So again, I shall just splatter with the isopropyl alcohol, and that's my final layer of colour. And again, I'm just going to give that a dry, a really good dry. Now, of course, it needs lightening. I mean, we've got some gorgeous texture in here. It might be difficult for you to see. This time I'm going to use some of my Bombay white India ink to go over on the top. You can use watered down acrylic. So we'll pop some of that on there like that. I haven't bothered to rinse out my water jar. Look at the colour of it. It's really horribly green, but that's okay because I don't want this to be stark white. That should be fine. I think I want a bit more of the India ink. There we go. And I'm just going to apply a final layer of this on top. And just look at the pattern that's already starting to happen. Again, just splatter over the top. Now I'm just going to use a paper towel just to rub some of that excess paint away. I'm just going to try going over this one more time. You see, I like that a lot better. So that's what it looks like now that it's dry. I just think that looks absolutely wonderful, but I do want to try one more thing. I want to see how this works with Bombay India ink. This is just really fluid ink. Now, Dr. P.H. Martins does some hydrous as well, which are watercolours. It won't work with watercolours because you want permanent layers in between. So, you know, the Bombay inks are different. I know that people have come a cropper with this in the past where they've ordered the hydrous thinking they're the same and they're not. So I'm just going to pop some of that down onto my background. Whoops, a daisy. Hold it in place, Nina. Let's go this way. Might be easier. So I just want my first layer like this. These are permanent, so we'll just have a layer of that ink. Again, apply some isopropyl alcohol, and we probably won't get much of a reaction on this layer here as before. And I'm just going to dry this with my heat tool. Now you can see, as with the acrylics, some blooming. Let me just hold it up. If I tilt it, you can see, but it's just not really obvious at this stage. So I'm going to dry this layer with my heat tool. My next layer, I want to add some teal. So let's add some of this. You can see probably from the background that I tried adding some yellow and you couldn't see it at all. I think you've got to add contrasting colours for this to work. Oh, look at that. How lovely. Where's my small brush? Oh, wow. You see, I think these work better than the acrylic paints. I don't know why, but I just think I'm getting much more of a reaction from these. But it does dry quicker. You can see that it's already dried in this area here, but I just love that. So that's what I've got there. I love it. I'm going to turn it this way round just so that I get more concentration in this area here. And this time I'm going to use some of the red violet. I can't remember whether I've given this a shake or not. So let's just pop some of this down as well. Grab my brush, just get rid of some of that blue. And again, I'm just going to spread this all over. Isn't that colour absolutely gorgeous? Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And resplatter. Yep, you can see that this is working much better. So inks are the way to go with this technique, I think. Look at that. Can't wait to add the white to this one. Just look how beautiful that is. So again, I've got the Bombay India ink in white. I'm just going to apply some. I'm going to go with this orientation this time. I'm just going to pop some down on my background. Come on, come out. Here we are. That should be enough. Water my brush down very slightly. I'm not applying too much water to this. That's too much, just because this is liquid already. Oh, I can't wait to see what this looks like. I want some more on that side there. I'm just going to apply a bit. I watered it down too much. And come in with the alcohol. Wow, wow, wow. I'm going to go around the bottom and the sides first because that's where it dries more quickly. Look at that. Let's try a bigger brush and see what happens. It's drying too quickly. But I just love how that looks, especially in this corner here as well. I will be experimenting with this more. But you get the gist. Just ended up rubbing some of the paint off. All I've done is just spritzed with water and just rubbed some away, and just look how beautiful that is. Oh my gosh, that is just absolutely gorgeous. Just enough white to lighten everything, but just still so interesting. I must admit, I am completely addicted to this technique. I just love these here. I just love this one where I rubbed the ink away. I just think it gave such nice results. I just love that. Looks different every angle that you turn it. I decided to experiment with this a bit further. So this one here was done using the same colours of ink that I used in this one here, but you can see that the results are completely different. And I kept adding layers, wiping them away, adding more, and eventually ended up with this. If I tried to repeat this, there's no way that I would be able to do it, so please don't ask me how. Just go and experiment. I just think it's absolutely beautiful. And then I tried a couple more as well. This one, I achieved the results that I was hoping to with this one here, and I don't know why this one ended up so streaky. Perhaps my final layer was a bit too thin, but you know, I just love this one here, and I really like this one as well. So I think these were all done using the fluid acrylics, although I can't remember now. I was just so carried away in the moment. So just go and experiment, either, you know, using watered down acrylics or inks if you've got them. I think the FW, the Daler Rowney FW acrylic inks would work for this as well. And of course, if you've only got watercolors, then you could always do this kind of thing. Now, this was the first one that I did using the metallic watercolors and the isopropyl alcohol. And this one didn't bloom the same way that it has on any of these. And I think it's because the watercolor paper is just heavily textured, whereas the board was a flat, smooth finish. So completely different results. But this would just make a great background. And I'll show you a couple of finished art journal pages where I've used this technique in the past. This was the one that I did with salt. And you can see how different these look. So you get more of a dendritic pattern with this one here. So I really like that. I did try it with rice, but you know, that didn't work. We've got nothing really to speak of. That's just really dull and boring in comparison. So let me show you a couple of finished art journal pages. This was a piece that I did for Remembrance a few years ago, and I'm pretty sure that this was watered down acrylic paints with the isopropyl alcohol just dropped on top, but it just works absolutely beautifully for this kind of technique. And if I bring back, where are they? The backgrounds that we just did, you can see how that would really work for some kind of wildflower type of design. So that's that one there. I also used it, this was using Bombay inks for this whimsical page here, again just with isopropyl alcohol splattered on top, similar colours to this one here. And then finally, this is a really old journal page, one of the very first art journal prompts I did. And again, this was just watercolour paint in the background. And you could see where I've dropped isopropyl alcohol on it and it's dispersed that paint. And then I've just, you know, added loads more layers and glitter embossing. The focal image is a piece of wallpaper on top. So, you know, great backgrounds for journal pages for sure. Now, I was hoping to experiment with bleach today as well, but I've spent so much time with this technique that I'm going to leave it there and I'll experiment with bleach another time. But I do hope that that's given you some ideas as to how you can get chemical reactions from things that you've already got in your stash. If you want to do this and you don't have any isopropyl alcohol, I think nail polish, especially acetone nail polish, would probably work. Surgical spirits will work as well. For those of us in the UK, it's not very easy to get hold of isopropyl alcohol. well, but surgical spirits will do exactly the same thing. So I hope that's given you some ideas to experiment with for this week. And if you enjoyed the video, as always, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. Do let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to go and check out Kylie's video as well to see how she's interpreted the prompt. And thanks for watching. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye for now.